Hey, my name is Cameron Williams, and this is my my group project for my discourse analysis class. And the project was about features and functions. We had to choose certain features and functions that we saw in videos or in a particular video. My first function was backchanneling. According to usenglish.com, backchanneling is a way to show the speaker that you are following what he or she is saying and that you understand. It's a way to show somebody that you're present in the conversation. It's showing someone that you're there without having to respond to everything they're saying verbally. So I mean, some of them are verbal feedbacks, but not all of them. It gives the speaker reassurance that you're interested in what she's saying. He or she is saying, like, certain backchanneling features might inform the speaker that you're interested, or on the opposite, that you are disinterested in the conversation that they're having. If I'm really interested in the conversation or what I'm talking about, and I'm talking to one of my friends, but the backchanneling that she's giving me feedback, it's showing me that she's bored, I'll just change the conversation just because that's what she's giving me. It's a way to show comprehension as well, that the listener understands what the speaker is saying. Backchanneling is not universal, and it's important to know that not all people have the same backchanneling features due to race, gender, culture. Just, it's not universal. This makes it ritualistic, and we all know what ritualistic is because we've been reading about it in our class. So they can be prosodic, physical, or verbal. Prosody, like intonation, stuff like that. Like if say, and I say something about something, I'm not sure, but the person was like, okay, that would show interest, as opposed to if I was saying something and then the person responded back to me, okay, it might show that, maybe like really wasn't expecting that. Depending on how you do it, depends on what that certain feedback that's being given, what it means. So it's always important to know how the people that you're talking to, how they communicate, because you don't want to offend anybody, and you don't want to be the one offended either. So the features that I chose for backchanneling were head nod, verbal feedback, and glare. I didn't include glare in my essay, but I didn't include glare in my video because the whole video, the teacher is looking at the students. If the student was saying something, he looked at them and he made eye contact to show him that he was listening to the conversation, and it was throughout the whole video, and I didn't want to highlight the whole entire video. I didn't feel it was necessary. But it's important to note they all work simultaneously with each other. I mean, they're all separate features, but they all work together to give back. First, I want to talk about head nod. It's physical, they're both head nods. One's a positive yes, and then the other negative. It shows agreement and understanding, and since it is a gestural feedback, it doesn't interrupt the speaker when it's their turn. It gives them a chance to talk, but it also shows them that you are. So I really like how it does that. And it doesn't cause a lot of commotion. It's just you're talking, and it says so much without having to say anything. And my video is attached. And for my first example, it was at mile marker a minute and 43 seconds. But I just wanted to talk about this example because it's just showing that the teacher understands the responses that the students has given them. Like this, the student will be talking, and then the camera will go to the teacher, and he would just be nodding along with what they were saying, not saying anything, but nodding along and agreeing with what they're saying. I think she was talking about the Hope Scholarship, so I'm assuming that she was answering the question how the student or how the teacher expected that she would, and he was just agreeing that he comprehended it. He was gathering all the information. So, okay. In my next example, one of the students, I believe it was Steven, he was talking about the time when he had to get his mom to come to the school because he didn't feel that the faculty was taking him seriously. So he thought he had to get his mom involved. And he said something, and you see another student in the background. There's a female to the left of him. I think her name is Jasmine, but she's nodding along with what he's saying. Even though she wasn't directly in the conversation between the student and the teacher, Steven and the teacher, she was still a part of the whole conversation. And this showed her involvement in the conversation, along agreeing. In my second retell, I was the only speaker. I mean, I was able to still include back channeling features, but I had to do it a certain way. And I wasn't able to include as many as I wanted. The way that I did this was, since there was only one camera and it was always on me, I would be in the role of the student, and then I would switch over to the role of the teacher. And when I switch over to the role of the teacher, normally you see me nodding my head as if I had been doing it the whole time, and the camera just didn't see it. So that's the way I tried to achieve that. My next feature was for back channeling was verbal agreement and understanding. This is probably back channeling that we're most familiar with, saying like, yeah, right, stuff like that. Like it's that verbal. It's not the head. I mean, a lot of times it goes along with a head nod, but it is that verbal feedback. It's just verbal reinforcement, as I put in my PowerPoint. In my opinion, the verbal feedback based on what you say, it's a condensed way to say, I agree with everything you just said, or I'm listening to you, please go ahead, without having to say that. A simple right, okay, as opposed to a whole long sentence to tell somebody that you agree with them. Verbal agreement, in my video it happened, or in the video, the Georgia school video, it happened a lot, especially by the teacher. I mean, it happened a lot with students. As soon as you'd be like, oh, okay, right. Everyone has their own unique feedback, as I said before. Like, not everybody does it the same way. Like, to me, I say, yeah, oh, okay. Like, that's my preference of what I say, but everybody's different. In this next example, the teacher says, one of the students says something, and the teacher says, okay, that's perfect. He understood it. The okay, understood it, and the that's perfect that's exactly what I meant. It would just shorten up what he said. He's taken it in, he's processed the comments, and he agrees or disagrees. In my second retell, I mostly used okay. And okay, I'm sorry I said that later. Okay, And for my next feature, I want to discuss glare. I'm only going to discuss this for a little while because I didn't include it in my paper, but I felt like it was important and I wanted to include it in my, I didn't include it in my video transcription, but I think it's important and I wanted to discuss it. Glare, it's just being alert, watching the speaker. It's showing the speaker, it's making that eye contact, making that connection to let them know you're here in the conversation. Because if you're looking all around, somebody's probably not going to think that you're interested in what they're saying, and it kind of just reinforces it. It's so simple of a gesture, but it means so much to conversations, and we don't even like pay attention to it. Since I was not able to do as many features as I would have liked to in my retail, I chose 2 other features, and those features were powerless speech and hesitations. The reason why this was difficult in this was because I told my story through the first person. I was a teacher, and when one of my students would talk, I would switch over the role to only speak to them in third person. First person, but I would speak of my students as if they were third person. I realized a lot of powerless speech in my retail because when I'm unsure about something, I use and stuff like that. So for my powerless speech, I use hesitations and tag up questions. I'm sorry, I have a correction from earlier. It kind of makes the speech less credible. It makes you believe that you aren't as positive or sure about what you're talking about. So for hesitations, I used a lot. In total, I counted 15 times when I used in a 3-minute video. So there were a lot of included in my video. A lot of times I used it to fill up space because I was processing something still. So I would, and then I would go along with what I'm saying. My next feature, which was tag up questions, that I found a tag up question is, well, the feature that the one that I use most often was like somebody would say something and I'd be like, this. It seems rhetorical, but it's just for me to like ask for feedback from them to reassure myself that I'm saying what is right. So my second function was turnover signals, and this is cues that a speaker gives that a person is communicating with the person that there is. Cues that a person that he or she is communicating with is nearing the end of a term. These can be prosodic, verbal, and physical as well. It's all based on context. So this again is ritualistic. Like for prosody, you have slowing of the tempo, vowel elongation, and falling intonation. Those are all prosodic features, but they are specifically showing that nearing the end of a turnover. Overlap. This happens a lot when two people don't have the same turnover styles, and one of them might have shorter pauses and the other has longer pauses. So the person with shorter pauses, so the person with longer pauses doesn't give the person with shorter pauses a long enough time to respond. Just because it's not the person trying to be rude, it's just their different styles. It's not necessarily a bad thing if somebody overtalks or if there's overlap. A lot of the time it can show involvement. It's showing somebody that you're really interested in what they're saying. You might say something and I just butt in, oh my god, yeah, I know. Like, I kind of took your turn. It's also back channel. I kind of took your turn, but I'm just so interested in what you're saying. It's not negative. It's not a rude thing. It can also show bonding. My next feature that I chose was hand raising. This was a turnover. feature from the function is turnover, the feature is hand raising. Okay, and this happens a lot in classrooms. Classrooms are notorious for this. It usually happens in a certain way. The teacher asks a question, the students raise their hands to whoever wants to respond to the question, and then the teacher calls on the student that he or she wants. Then I just have an example from the video where the students are raising their hand and the teacher called on them. That's all my next example was in the video. For my retail, I didn't have some of these features, so I chose the feature, some of these features were not. So I chose the features, asking questions, pause, and selecting the next speaker. So the way I did it, I would ask a question, I'd sit there, I'd wait, and then I would call on the student that I wanted to have the next turn. This is kind of notorious. If you ask a question, you wait on the person to respond. You don't ask a question and then go on talking. If you ask a question, unless it's rhetorical, normally that's telling somebody that it's their turn to speak. Pointing as well. Selecting the next speaker by pointing. This happened a lot in the video. It's kind of obvious who the next speaker is going to be if you point to them and tell them, hey, it's your turn. So finally, I just want to discuss kind of what I got from this video. I noticed that how different we are with our how we think about things, just the different perspectives. We all had the same project and we were all given the same directions, but the way that we each individually figured out how we wanted to do it was so unique. We all had different features. For the features that we did have, or for the functions that we did have, we had different features, and for those features we had different examples, and then for those different examples we had for why we chose it as a feature. So it was very interesting to figure out, to see how everybody's different opinions about it. And what I would do differently is I would role shift better. I want to become better with role shifting and less powerless speech. So thank you.